2005 through 2010 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 3.7 liter engine, radiator and thermostat replacement. I'm Brian Esser from How to Automotive. I'm going to walk you step by step through that process. The first step I'm going to do is slide a coolant bucket or drain bucket underneath the vehicle to catch the coolant, and I'm going to unbolt the thermostat. So there's an 8mm bolt here and an 8mm bolt just below that. To make quick work of removing those bolts, I'm going to use the new second generation Milwaukee M12 1/4-inch ratchet. These new ratchets are torquey and such a time saver. I definitely recommend that you check them out. I will leave a link for them in the description of the video. So once you get both of the bolts removed, then what you're going to do is grab the hose and just wiggle it and pull the thermostat housing off like this. So you just grab it and pull it off. Then the thermostat here may be stuck on the block here. I'm just going to use a pair of needle nose pliers. Grab those and just grab the end of it and just pull it and pop it off. Make sure that coolant bucket's under there, ready to catch the coolant. Now I'm going to remove the upper radiator hose, squeeze the clamp, and then pull the hose off and tuck it out of your way. Now I'm going to unplug the electrical connector for the cooling fan here. Just squeeze the tab, pull it, and separate the connector. And then right here is an 8mm bolt you can remove, and then another 8mm bolt here. And then on the opposite side here, just below the radiator neck here, is an 8mm bolt here. You can get to it with an extension. And then just below the right here is another 8mm bolt. You're going to remove that. Once again, to make quick work of that, I'm going to use the M12 1/4-inch ratchet here to remove all those bolts. Now that you got it fully unbolted and the electrical connector disconnected right here, what you're going to do is you're going to lift the cooling fan upwards and push it towards the front of the car or the back of the car a little bit to clear the neck right here. And then you'll have to twist the fan a little bit and lift straight out. As you're lifting the fan out, you want to just double check around, make sure it's not snagging on anything, and just lift it straight up and out. Now you can set that aside. One thing that may snag you and give you a little trouble is these two cooler lines, but they're flexible and you can push them out of your way. After that, you can unplug the overflow tube here and kind of set this aside or tuck it out of your way. Now we need to remove the grill. You're going to need a pair of pliers like these to pull the clips out. So there's going to be quite a few of them around the front of the grill here. So you're just going to follow them around the perimeter of the grill and remove all these clips. Once you get all the clips removed, you just lift the grill straight up and out. Now there's a 10mm bolt here and here that we need to remove. So I'm using the M12 again to make quick work of that. Remove those two bolts. Once you remove these two bolts, there's going to be two more bolts we need to get to. So you're going to go downwards, and in front of the bumper here through the opening, there's a hole. You can remove the bolt here. And here on the opposite side, remove those two 10mm bolts there. Now you can lift the condenser up a little bit and then pull toward you. There's a little shelf that the condenser rests on at the bottom down there. So you got to clear that. So you got to lift upwards and then pull it towards the front of the car. Once you got the condenser pulled forward, you can take this little flap here and pull it off and kind of tuck it out of your way. So pull it out and set it aside like this. Now there's going to be a 10mm bolt here. And then on the other side, we need to pull out this air snorkel. So you're just going to pull it out of the air box. It's just clipped in there. So you'll just pull straight towards you and wiggle it and pull it out of the car. Once you get the snorkel out of the car, then there's a 10mm bolt right here you can remove. Now we need to remove this top core support here. So there's two 10mm bolts here. The washer bottle is going to be riveted to this. We're going to work around it and leave it riveted there together. So we're going to remove these two bolts, and then we're going to remove the two bolts here that are holding the latch on, and the two bolts over here. Now we can lift up on the top portion of this core support and pull it out like this. There's a cable still hooked up to it, and the bottle still hooked up to it. So we're just going to lift it up and then pull it towards us, towards the front of the vehicle, and angle it out of the way. So now it's resting on the front bumper here. So I put a fender cover underneath it so it doesn't scratch up the bumper. And like I said, this bottle here is riveted to here. It is your option. You can drill that out and take it off and then take the whole core support out of your way completely, but I just tucked it out of the way. Now the radiator is free to remove. So I started lifting the radiator straight up, and the lower radiator hose, I found it would be easier if you take it off now. It does catch on the AC lines and stuff, but you can kind of flex the hose and flex the lines a little bit and clear them. And also the two cooler lines on the right side, you'll have to kind of flex those out of your way. They're kind of get in the way, and you just work in smaller increments and lift straight up and work and push things out of your way and keep lifting up, and the radiator will come out. So as I was trying to lift this radiator out of the car, I found that the wiring harness here on this clip to the frame rail here. So I used a panel popping tool here and pulled the little electrical connector out of the frame rail here. And then that freed it up where I have a lot more movement on the wiring harness here to get it out of my way. Like I said, you just work slowly and kind of just push the hoses and lines out of your way and keep lifting and slowly twist it slightly left or slightly right, or push it left or right, and you'll clear all the hoses and AC lines, and you'll be able to lift the radiator straight up and out of the car like this. And I would recommend taking the lower hose off after doing this and struggling with it. I would recommend taking that lower hose off first. Here is a look at those AC lines and electrical connectors here that was kind of snagging on right here, the lower hose. So, but they're flexible, so you can kind of maneuver them to help get it off. Now, before we go back together, I'm going to buff off the mating surface here where the thermostat rides and get it all nice and clean. After that, I'm going to take the lower hose off the old radiator here, and then I'm going to install the new thermostat into the housing here. There's a little indentation on the O-ring, and then you want the O-ring and the vent to be facing towards the top like this. So you'll put it in and it'll look like this. Now you're going to take the thermostat housing and hose here and just put it back into the vehicle here and put it on and tighten those two bolts up. Now I like to put the old radiator side by side with the new radiator, and any grommets or anything that's on the old radiator that needs to be transferred over to the new one, I transfer that over. That not all radiators come with all new parts, so some parts have to be transferred over, like these bushings here. And so anything on the old radiator, transfer it over to your new radiator. Now I'm going to install the radiator into the core support here. There's rubber grommets at the bottom. It has to stab in the holes at the bottom of the core support. So you're going to angle it in there just a little bit like this and just work slowly, and you're going to flex those hoses and on both the left and right side. Just flex them out of your way and slowly work and put the radiator down into the core support. Now that you got the radiator sitting back down into the core support, you can go ahead and start the 10mm bolts on the left and the right side of it. They have the large washers. After those are bolted up, you can take the top portion of the core support here and put it back on top here. And I don't put the bolts in it just yet. I just set it on top here, kind of get it out of my way and get it in the ballpark. Before we bolt the condenser back up to the radiator, we need to pull it forward and then slip this little cover here back behind where it went. After that, we can start the bolts on the corners, and then we can put the air snorkel here back on and push that back into place. It stabs into the air box. Then we can put this top core support and start the bolts on the left and right side. Then the two braces in the front here, you can reposition those in there. So I'm going to run these two bolts down, but I'm going to line up the witness marks from how it came off, so you can kind of see where the dirt marks are. And so I'm going to wiggle the core support left and right and line it back up the way I took it off. So I'll tighten those two bolts down. Then I'll put the latch on right here, and it moves up and down too. So I'll line up the paint marks or the dirt marks where it was on the old one before I took it off, and then I'll tighten everything down. After that, we can put the lower hose onto the lower portion of the radiator and put the clamp back on. We can start the cooling fan. You'll kind of nose it at an angle, so you'll put it in at an angle like this and then rotate it downwards towards the driver's side of the vehicle. Just like when you install the radiator, you want to work slowly and just make sure that everything is out of your way and lower it down into position. As you're lowering this fan down, it's going to want to snag on the cooler lines here on the driver's side, so you're going to have to maneuver those out of your way to get it to go all the way down and seat. Once you get it all the way down and in there, then you can go ahead and start all four of the bolts in the corners here. And I recommend you leave it loose until all four of them are started, and then after that you can tighten them all down. Now you can plug in the cooling fan and reroute the wire loom the way you took it out and resecure it. Now that the fan is plugged back in and all the mounting hardware is tightened, you can take the upper radiator hose here and flip it back out over and install it onto the radiator neck. Then you can reinstall the overflow tube here, and then we can put the grill in so it hooks on the bottom here. So you hook it on the bottom and then you rotate it into position, and it'll start all the plastic clips and resecure the grill. Now on top of the upper radiator hose is a bleeder screw that we need to remove. It's an 8mm Allen bolt. So you're going to back that out, and then once you get it backed out, we're going to fill it up with coolant. Now you can fill the radiator up until it overflows out of the hole, the bleeder screw here. So coolant will start running out once you get it full. So you want to fill this up with 50-50 mix Mopar approved coolant. So once the radiator is completely full and all the air bubbles come out of the top right here, you can reinstall the 8mm vent bolt. Now you're going to run the vehicle until the thermostat down here opens up. So you'll start it up and you'll run it until this hose gets hot, and the cooling fan will also cycle on and run. And then you want to also make sure that the overflow bottle is full and topped off to its proper level, and that'll complete the job of replacing the radiator. I will link up all the parts and tools, including the radiator and thermostat, in the description of the video. I'm Brian Esser from How to Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this, and thank you again for watching.